Near midnight, Karen heard noises from the attic, children's footsteps and prolonged laughter. The suburbs of Massachusetts stretched endlessly with somber pine forests and deserted dirt roads. As autumn crept in, the area was cloaked in a thin, chilling mist. The Walker family arrived on a gray morning, their SUV pulling up before an old Victorian mansion perched alone on a small hill. The house seemed swallowed by the dense trees surrounding it, silent, secretive, and somehow uneasy. The three-story mansion had been abandoned for over 20 years. But its unbelievably low price and renovation potential convinced David and Karen Walker to buy it. Both were busy professionals. David ran a law firm while Karen was building her organic cosmetics brand. For them, the house was a fresh start for their family, away from city smog and work stress. But for Emily, their 10-year-old daughter, things weren't so simple. The moment she stepped through the rusted gate into the yard, Emily felt the air shift. She clung to her mother's hand, her eyes darting to a high window where something seemed to flicker past, quick as a breeze. When she looked again, only tattered curtains swayed gently in the cold wind. Inside, the house held the breath of the past, creaking wooden stairs underfoot, the smell of rotting wood mixed with faint mildew lingering in the air. In a hallway corner, an antique grandfather clock ticked on, though no one had wound it in years. Karen called it vintage charm. But Emily felt it was watching something. Moving day was hectic. Movers, electricians, delivery workers, all left as dusk fell. While David buried himself in his laptop and Karen arranged flowers in the living room, Emily, driven by innate curiosity and a constant loneliness, decided to explore her new home. She followed the hallway to the third floor where an old wooden door was locked. Its rusted hinges groaned as Emily pushed. It wasn't fully locked, just ajar, as if untouched for years. A cold draft wafted out. It was the attic. Dim light from a small window illuminated thick dust covering everything. Wooden trunks, paintings draped in white cloth, a rocking chair swaying gently despite no breeze. And then in the darkest corner, Emily saw it, a moth-eaten wooden chest pressed against a stained wall. She opened the chest, and there, among old fabric scraps and faded embroidered cloth, was a rag doll. It had curly brown yarn hair, a vintage blue dress, and a face stitched with delicate precision, an old, captivating beauty. But strangely, its brown stitched eyes seemed to stare right at Emily, not like a toy, but like a living thing that had been waiting for her for a very long time. Emily picked up the doll, gently cradling it. For some reason, she no longer felt alone. The first night after Emily brought the doll to her room, the house began to change. At first, it was subtle sounds, creaking floorboards at night, wind whistling through an unlatched window. But within days, those noises became vivid and alive. Karen woke at 3 a.m. to a child's giggles echoing from the second-floor hallway. She flicked on the light and stepped out. The hallway was empty, yet the laughter continued, fading until it melted into the darkness as if it never existed. The next morning, while dusting the second-floor living room windows, Karen found small handprints in the dust on the inner glass. Tiny, childlike, and fresh, but Emily hadn't played there. The housekeeper hadn't been in that area either. Karen wiped them away, but the next day they reappeared, more numerous, clearer. Emily seemed unbothered. In fact, she was brighter and livelier than usual, but not with adults, with someone unseen. She'd sit by her bedroom window, talking to herself in a hushed voice mixed with soft giggles. When Karen asked who she was playing with, Emily smiled, turning the doll in her hands to face her mother, and said, "I'm talking to Alyssa. She lived here before us." Karen shivered. "Where did you hear that name?" "She told me. She knows lots of secrets about this house. You don't know, Mom, but our house has a secret room." Karen gave a weak laugh, thinking it was just childish imagination, but when she checked the attic, she found a hidden space behind a wooden panel, likely an old storage nook. That night, Karen stirred awake. A creeping unease crawled over her skin. As she tiptoed down the hallway, a small shadow, like a child's, flashed past Emily's door just for a moment. Too scared to wake David, Karen approached the slightly open door and pushed it. In the dim glow of the nightlight, Emily slept soundly, her face peaceful. On a chair by the window, the doll Alyssa sat upright, facing Karen, its empty gaze piercing the darkness. The next morning, when Karen asked again, Emily whispered, avoiding her mother's eyes. "Alyssa likes to guard the door at night. She says someone strange tried to come into my room." Karen's throat tightened. "Emily, who is she? Do you think she's real?" Emily bowed her head, whispering as if afraid of being overheard. "She told me not to tell, it's a secret. If I do, she'll be sad, and when she's sad, she does scary things." Karen swallowed the rising dread in her chest. From that day, she kept the bedroom lights on all night. But the light didn't stop the patter of small footsteps crossing the hallway every night. Since meeting Alyssa, Emily changed noticeably. She woke late, refused breakfast, and stopped greeting her parents as before. Her once sparkling, innocent eyes turned dull and distant, as if looking through people without seeing them. Karen initially thought it was a temporary phase after the move, but things grew too strange. Emily refused school, claiming stomach aches or dizziness, and eventually locked herself in her room, never leaving. Meals were left on a tray outside her door, and it cracked open just enough for a small hand to grab it before slamming shut. The housekeeper said she felt chills near the room, her arm hairs standing on end as if something inside was watching her. One day when Karen tried to enter to clean, Emily screamed, pounding the door from inside. "Go away, this is my room and Alyssa's, no one's allowed in." Karen froze. She pressed her ear to the door, about to speak, when she heard whispers inside. But it wasn't one voice. It was two voices overlapping, Emily's, young but sharp, and another deeper, hoarse, trembling like an older person's. "Your mom's listening." Karen's heart sank. She stepped back, ice running through her veins. When she told David, he sighed, exhausted. "You misheard. She's just lonely, Karen. Don't let your imagination run wild. You don't understand. I heard someone else talking in there, David, not Emily. It's impossible." David snapped. The conversation turned into an argument. From then on, a rift grew between them, a divide fueled by fear only one of them truly felt. Karen began watching Emily. She stayed up nights, sitting outside her daughter's room, straining to hear the sounds within. Some nights were silent, others brought giggles, pacing footsteps, and sometimes a lullaby in an incomprehensible language. One stormy night, Karen sat huddled in the hallway, the dim nightlight casting shadows on Emily's ajar door. About to return to her room, she saw a figure appear in the door's gap. Emily was sitting on the floor in her pajamas, back to her mother, facing another girl, taller, long hair hiding her face in a tattered white nightgown, pale as wax, her hands dangling near the floor. They said nothing, just stared at each other in eerie silence. Karen stood frozen, unable to look away. The other girl didn't move, didn't twitch, but was undeniably present. Then she turned her head. Her face was stitched with black thread, stitches pulling tight at her mouth's corners. stretching her lips to her ears, revealing razor-sharp white teeth. Her eyes had no pupils, just deep black voids. Karen screamed, bursting into the room. No one was there. Emily lay asleep in bed, blankets tucked around her, eyes closed as if she'd never stirred. The room was freezing, the window slightly open, letting in the rain-soaked breeze. Only the doll Alyssa sat on the bed, upright, facing the door, its curly yarn hair trembling in the wind. Karen, shaking, touched the doll. Its fabric skin was rough but warm, as if blood pulsed inside. She yanked her hand back. At that moment, Emily's eyes fluttered open, her voice a whisper. "Why are you in here, Mom?" Karen leaned down, softly asking, "Who were you talking to, Emily?" Emily glanced at the doll, then answered in a voice eerily calm and chilling. "Alyssa, but you can't meet her, Mom. You wouldn't like her." She closed her eyes, turned away, and sank back into sleep as if nothing had happened. Karen backed out, the door closing behind her with a soft, spine-chilling click. The mansion grew colder, not from the weather, but from the atmosphere. It was thick, stifling, and steeped in darkness, even when daylight streamed through the old trees. Karen Walker felt like she was living in an endless, grim nightmare where everything, including her daughter, grew increasingly alien. Emily, or whatever wore Emily's form, barely spoke. Her eyes were cloudy, vacant, often staring past people, as if listening to something elsewhere. The doll Alyssa was always in her arms, even in sleep. Sometimes Karen heard soft giggles from Emily's room, like two children whispering secrets. Karen couldn't take the ambiguity anymore. She needed to know what was happening in this house. On a foggy morning, after dropping David at his law office, Karen visited the town library, a crumbling brick building tucked along the main road. She asked for records on the mansion's history. The elderly librarian, his white hair disheveled, was startled. No one had asked about that house in decades. "It belonged to the Holloway family," he said, pulling out yellowed documents. In the 1920s, they were well known. The husband was an architect, the wife a painter, and they had a young daughter, Alyssa Holloway. Karen opened the file, her eyes locking on a black and white photo, a girl about 10 in a lace dress, hair to her shoulders. Her large eyes unnaturally sad, the face chillingly familiar, like Emily, like the girl Karen saw in her daughter's room. Her heart pounded. Alyssa died at 11, the librarian continued, his voice lowering. No clear cause. Rumors said her mother locked her in the attic because Alyssa started acting strange, whispering to herself, drawing pictures no one dared look at closely. Karen was silent. After that, the mother vanished without a trace. They only found the doll Alyssa loved. The girl's body was found in the woods, hastily buried. No one knows what really happened. Karen slipped the photo into her pocket, thanked him hurriedly, and left the library, a vague wave of fear surging within her. Back home, she went straight to the attic where Emily found the doll. The attic was cold, dusty, and webbed, but something made her skin crawl, a feeling of being watched. Behind old crates, she found a large wooden chest. Lock rusted. When she opened it, a foul stench hit her, nearly making her gag. Inside were items that froze her blood, a lock of real hair, small childlike bones, and a moldy, blood-stained leather journal. It was Alyssa's diary. The first page, dated 1923, had neat handwriting that grew erratic. Alyssa wrote of strange dreams, voices in her head, shadows only she saw. She wrote, "Mother says I'm not normal. She locks me in the dark. But I know the truth. I know the house's secrets. I hear them. I see them by Mother's bed every night." Scattered in the diary were crude drawings, eyeless faces, torn bodies, and the doll Alyssa, always present, grinning in the center of each sketch. The final page stopped Karen's breath. Mother betrayed me. She left, leaving me to rot alone. But I'll come back. I'll never forgive. I'll return through anyone weak, anyone abandoned. Next name, Emily Walker. Karen gasped, stumbling back from the chest as if she'd touched a vengeful spirit. Emily grew stranger. She filled notebooks with a language Karen didn't recognize, later realizing it was Latin, which Emily had never studied. One line caught her eye: Lucem odio tenebras amo. I hate the light, I love the darkness. Karen tried talking to David, but he grew irritable and impatient. You're imagining things, she's just a kid, you're overthinking. But one stormy night, when David wearily checked on Emily, Karen heard a panicked scream from upstairs. She rushed up and found David staggering out, pale as death. She's not Emily, it can't be her. Karen entered the room. Emily sat upright on the bed, eyes bloodshot, her mouth curled into a smile not a child's but a twisted, cunning grin. Her voice was low, aged. I told you she's not your daughter anymore. Karen stumbled back, nearly collapsing. That night the house shook with strange noises. Lights flickered wildly. Karen couldn't call out. Cell service was dead. The radio picking up only static with faint, familiar giggles. The house became an island in the night forest, surrounded by darkness and resentment. Near midnight, Karen heard noises from the attic, children's footsteps and prolonged laughter. She climbed up, flashlight trembling. The chest was still open, but now empty. Only the diary remained, and on the attic wall, fresh blood scrawled, I'm back, and this time I won't leave alone. Karen collapsed, clutching the blood-stained diary. Her eyes widened in horror at the final page, a new, scrawled note. I love you, sister. I'll stay with you forever. Emily. Emily was no longer Emily. Her voice grew hoarser, deeper, carrying the tone of an ancient, furious, desperate soul. She wandered the house at midnight, lighting small candles along the hallway, dining room walls, and staircase base. On the white walls, she drew strange symbols in reddish-brown. Karen didn't need to guess. It wasn't paint. The house grew colder, not from air conditioning or northern autumn, but a bone-deep chill that clenched the heart with every step over the threshold. Increasingly, Karen noticed the doll Alyssa seemed to move on its own. Though locked in a drawer, by morning it sat upright at Emily's bedside, its cracked porcelain face always turned toward the door as if watching. David, once steadfast, began to crumble. One night, washing his face in the bathroom, he screamed. Karen ran in, finding the large mirror cracked down the middle, as if punched from within. David lay curled on the floor, blood streaming from his neck. Deep scratches ran from shoulder to jaw, impossible for human hands. Gasping, eyes wild, he stammered, "Something in the mirror, it wasn't you." After that, David barely left bed. He muttered nonsense, staring at the ceiling as if seeing something Karen couldn't. On the third night, the house shook, not an earthquake, not a storm, just the house trembling as if shaken from outside. Karen jolted awake to heavy footsteps running across the ceiling, then a child's shrill cry. I'm hungry, I'm cold, I want my mom. Sobs echoed through the dark hallway, seeping through door cracks like the smell of blood. Karen, trembling, followed the sound. In the living room, the doll Alyssa sat in the center of the floor, a ring of dried blood around it. Unable to take it anymore, Karen grabbed it, ran to the backyard, doused it in gasoline, and lit a match. The flames flared, then died out, as if nothing could burn it. And then from behind, Emily's voice, not Emily's, but a layered, cold, blood-soaked tone. If you burn the doll, I'll go with it. Karen turned. Emily stood there, eyes pure white, no pupils. Blood dripped from her nose, ears, then seeped from her mouth. She opened it, letting out a scream that shook the earth and collapsed. The house went mad. Shut windows flew open, wind roaring like a storm. The dining room wall cracked, revealing a deep, dark cavity. Inside were brittle bones, a blood-matted lock of hair, and a rotting piece of paper, a birthday card with childish scrawl. "Mom won't leave me. Alyssa is Mom's girl forever." The crying stopped. The room fell into eerie silence. Before them, from the darkness, a figure emerged, gaunt, disheveled hair, cloudy eyes brimming with tears. Alyssa's mother. Her ghost knelt, embracing the small Alyssa huddled on the floor, Emily. But no longer Emily. The air hummed as the two figures faded into a strange white light. Karen dropped beside her daughter, though Emily thrashed, screamed, and kicked. She held her tight, tears streaming. "I'm sorry for leaving you alone so long." No incantations, no exorcists, no rituals. Just a mother holding her child in a nightmare. And in that moment, Alyssa stopped. Emily woke in a stark white room, the smell of antiseptic thick in her nose. Soft light filtered through hospital curtains. Beside her, Karen gripped her daughter's hand, eyes sunken but brightening as Emily stirred. "Mom, where am I?" Emily's voice was weak, confused. She remembered nothing, not the blood symbols on the walls, the screams in the night, or the doll with the twisted smile. To her, it was all a distant dream that never truly existed. Karen said nothing. She squeezed Emily's hand, her chest heavy with unspoken weight. David, though still weak, kept his voice steady when telling the doctor they'd leave town as soon as Emily recovered. A week later, they moved out. The old mansion was left behind as if no one had ever lived there. Broken windows, moss-stained walls, weeds piercing the tiles. Locals whispered of voices from the attic at night, children's footsteps echoing down empty halls. No one dared go near. Time passed quietly. A year later, a moving truck stopped before the weathered mansion. The Martinez family, new from the city, was eager for a fresh start. They knew nothing of the house's past, only its suspiciously low price. They believed it was just abandoned too long over rumors. Their young daughter Sophia, 8, with curly brown hair and big round eyes, scampered around exploring. While the adults unpacked, she slipped up the creaky wooden stairs to the attic. The air was thick, blanketed in dust. Faint light seeped through wooden slats, illuminating torn crates, broken frames, and moldy curtains. In a corner behind a draped cloth, something caught Sophia's eye. A rag doll, old, dusty. But its black button eyes gleamed strangely in the slanted light. Its collar was stitched with red thread, its mouth sewn into a warped, wrinkled smile. Sophia picked it up, brushing off the dust. She tilted her head, smiling. "Who are you?" As wind whistled through the rotting doorframe, a sound, light as a breath, came from behind her. "Wanna play with me?"